Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, this is Brock Beard from LastCard.info, and we will be starting the disqualification show in just a moment. As you can see, we have the screen in the background here with Dorsey Schrader on the screen. This is the 1995 Bud at the Glen that will be YouTube user, The Racing Jungle, for posting it online. Definitely check out his website for other classic races. That we'll just have that in the background, and we will jump in just a moment here to talk about all the goings on as the road course season has its second race of the season, and the last road course till we get to the Roval at Charlotte this fall. Let me just share the link here, and we'll get going. So Chase Elliott, your winner, second year in a row in this race. We are still waiting on the inspection results to find out if that's going to be official or not. And then we're also going to look at, of course, what happened yesterday in the Xfinity Series race, where A.J. Allmendinger was disqualified for the second straight time driving for Colleague Racing. And then also the Truck Series, where Austin Hill scored his first last-place finish on the dirt track over at Eldora. We'll get going here as soon as I get this link. Where is that? Yes, and there is definitely a battle for last place that we're going to be talking about here, and we'll get into that in just a moment. Let's see. And alrighty. Let's get cranking here. Okay. Still need to get a better setup in here. I'm not satisfied in my profile here from the side view. Okay, let's just jump in here and we'll start talking about what happened here. So, unofficially, your last place finisher from today's, oh goodness. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just noticing here, yeah, apparently Hulu did have some technical issues. The NBC Sports app, I should have thought of that to watch the race. But that's an aside. Let's jump into what was happening in the race today and the very unfortunate, terrible, awful, no good day that Reed Sorensen endured today, Inspire Motorsports number 77 car. Right from the get-go, they started at the back of the field. They were the last place qualifier. They were joined at the back by Landon Castle, who pulled his car onto pit road at one point and dropped further back there. I believe it was Ryan Blaney was sent to the back for an issue of unapproved adjustments there to send him to the back. As we've seen in a lot of these races in the past, he didn't actually start in the back at any point. The last row or the last couple of spots had the 77 and the 00 coming to the stripe. So really from the beginning of the race, Sorensen was just, he was running at the back of the field, wasn't able to really catch anybody, started losing touch with the rest of the pack. We'd seen this in the past with certainly a lot of these smaller teams in particular on the road courses. Coming through, look at my notes here. Basically, for most of the first part of the race, especially the first stage, he was just gradually losing more and more distance there to the back of the field. He did end up losing a lap to the leaders by lap 18. I believe it was between 17 and 18. I believe it was lap 18 at the time there. Where the leaders finally caught up to him there and put him a lap down. From there, he was just kind of minding his own business. But then came going down pit road. Pit road problems ended up sniping the number 77 during this. The 77 had never finished last in a Cup Series race at Watkins Glen. Unofficially, it now has. Sorensen was at the tail end of the field, and Parker Kligerman briefly took last place from Sorensen on lap 27. That's when Kligerman spun out in the inner loop and had to make an unscheduled stop. Kligerman's fresh tires were enough that he was able to then catch Sorensen on the ensuing green flag run and get right back past him. Now, Sorensen made his pit stop soon after this, and this is where the problems really started compounding. He came down pit road the first time. He didn't have a red light show up on the dash, but he was still flagged for speeding down pit road, so he had a problem there. He then comes back down pit road again. He gets caught speeding again, this time in sections 13 and 14. This time it's going to be a stop-and-go penalty. He comes back in for that penalty, and this time he gets caught for driving through too many pit stalls. But before he could come in to get that penalty served, something happens in the front of the car there. They lose all the power steering fluid. It sprays all over the entrance to turn 5. He has to get back into the garage area, so the penalty is basically moot at that point. And then he loses several laps. He loses about 14 laps, comes back out of the garage area. At that point, nobody else has fallen out. We still have Daniel Hemrick backed into the wall into the inner loop, dropped further back. Corey LaJoie dropped at least one cylinder. Number 32 car was off the pace. Back in the field, still pretty much up for grabs, although we're starting to run out of laps at this point. And if things stayed the same, by 10 laps to go, Sorensen was going to lock up last place no matter what. And the only other person that was going to contend for that was going to be Daniel Hemrick when he had dropped multiple laps down, trying to clear the crash clock, which he eventually did do. Great work by the number 18 there to get him back out there. So at the end of the race there, we're getting down to the finish, and Sorensen is still out there with Hemrick and everybody else. And then Ryan Preece is suddenly in the garage area. Now, I had missed what pulled the number 47 car back there. They're apparently taking off the tires or the wheels and looking underneath the car there for something. I don't know if it's probably a suspension issue or something like that. It's kind of what it sounded like, but nothing that I have confirmed. We'll see what it looks like in the official results as we have now the start of the 95 Watkins Glen race going in the background here. At the moment, if Preece was still in the garage area and Sorensen stayed out on the track, which he was at the time, Preece would have just taken last place from Sorensen with 2 laps to go. And so he would have had something really pretty exciting there at the back. Preece has never finished last in a Cup Series race, not only in his drive for JTG Daugherty Racing that he runs for now. Also, if you remember, even further back in 2015, he drove a number of starts in the number 98 car, which had changed hands from Phil Parsons Racing eventually to Premium Motorsports owned by Jay Robinson. He had driven for them and never finished last in those races either. And this is definitely the closest that he's now come to it, on top of Atlanta earlier this year when he had that pit road incident during a very calm race in that one. But that ended up changing when Sorensen then pulled into the garage area again a few laps later, and that locked up last place for Sorensen then within those final 10 laps. He had closed within 7 laps of Preece, but no, he advanced no further, and so unofficially Reed Sorensen, your last place finisher today at Watkins Glen. A very frustrating situation there for him and the Spire Motorsports team. First last place run for the team since Quinn Houck's last place run. I believe it was at there was a race right before Daytona. It was not Kentucky. It was Chicagoland, if I remember correctly. It was a race before that, and then of course they won at Daytona this year as well. So different set of circumstances there. So a pretty wild, pretty calm race at the front of the field. Oh dear, is the YouTube stream not going pretty good? I'm seeing a comment here, Beast of Metal, that it's pretty choppy. Is that an issue with the video in the background, or is the stream not working right? Definitely let me know, and I'll see if maybe we'll close it out and refresh it, and hopefully it's working better. Okay, we'll keep going and try plugging away here in the meantime. Hopefully things will clear up. We did have some issues with the Wi-Fi up here at the parents' house here. We had some issues again with the Hulu, but it looked like that was more of a Hulu issue. We were able to at least get the last place coverage there from the tablet, so glad that worked. Not seeing any other comments here in the meantime, but we'll just keep going here. If it gets too bad, definitely say something in the comments here, and we'll try a fresh stream and try it from there. But in the meantime, we'll definitely keep going about the weekend in racing there, and talk about everything that was happening at Watkins Glen. So let me get the unofficial results pulled up. Again, Chase Elliott unofficially your winner. We are now still waiting again for the technical inspection results. We'll be doing some NASCAR trivia later on in the show here, and we're going to have something special for that. Whoop, and of course, the battery's about to conk out on this. We are approaching about the 21-minute mark since the race wrapped up, and we're going to be awaiting results from there. Let's take a look here. Okay, let's get those results pulled up and check that out. The foot cam there is a little bit too dark for this. Or is that? Oh no, that's a rear suspension on Dale Earnhardt's car there. Let's take a look here. Come on, results. You want to load up here? Whoop. Okay, Beast of Metal. I saw you delete a comment there. Do you have an issue with the stream? I want to make sure that it's coming through correctly here. It looks okay on my end here, but I just want to make sure it's not. If it's getting too distracting, I certainly don't want to make you guys suffer through that. We'll get that all up to date. Okay, tell me you're gonna load page. Let's do that. How about we do that? Okay, unofficial results. Looks like everything's still updating at the moment here. What do you guys think about the race in general? I mean, certainly very much like Sears Point, a dominant race where you basically had two drivers that were just kind of contending for the race all by themselves. For most of the first part of that race at Sears Point this year, I was in the garage area when you had situations with the rare cars, as well as it happened, Chase Elliott, who lost oil pressure in that race and dropped back the field there, almost being last in that event. Then you ultimately had a battle between Kyle Busch, Martin Truex at the finish, both of them in very equally matched cars. I mean, obviously driving his teammates at Joe Gibbs Racing. Put on a good show there. I mean, it looked like Kyle Busch was closing the gap there, but he downplayed the effort there that he had made to try to close the gap. And then in this situation here, I mean, Truex just being outmatched by Chase Elliott there. Very surprising, given Truex's dominant history in the road courses the last couple of years. I mean, it's very much reminding of Jeff Gordon's time dominating the road courses in the late 90s. Not so much in this race here in 95. This is a different form of dominance, as I mentioned in my NASCAR video. The NASCAR in the late 90s video. This was Mark Martin's third straight victory at Watkins Glen. So kind of an appropriate thing about like the spoiler alert, the dominance of certain drivers that just get it figured out. That you had the era between Rusty Wallace and Ricky Rudd in the early 90s. Then you had Mark Martin really take off in the mid 90s. Then Jeff Gordon in the late 90s. And then it was kind of open season. I mean, at Sears Point in particular, we had a lot of different winners that were winning those races. And Watkins Glen had some crazy stuff. You had Marcus Ambrose winning some pretty wild races there in 2011 and 2012. And now we suddenly find ourselves in this era, the Truex era, where he has not just won Sears Point back in 2013 when he was driving for Michael Waltrip Racing, but between Furniture Row and with Joe Gibbs Racing, he's continued to show the dominance that he promised earlier in his career. Great showing for the Gibbs team. Looking at the results here, Chase Elliott may have had the win, but Joe Gibbs had second, third, and fourth, with Truex Hamlin a very distant third, 11.2 seconds back of the lead, and 10.7 seconds back of his teammate Truex. Eric Jones in fourth. He was again very fast in this race last year, had a top five in that one as well. Ryan Blaney rounding out the top five. Very quietly, Matt Benedetto scored a sixth-place finish. He was just outside the top 10 at the end of the race. Worked his way towards the end of the race. He worked his way up there into the sixth position, 22.6 seconds back in the lead. I'm actually going to screen cap this because that's actually some pretty impressive margins there. Great run from Matt Benedetto. Has really showed some promise, particularly on these road courses. Very physical race again. Long green flag runs. Wasn't sure how hot it was out there. It sure looked pretty pleasant, I'll tell you. But the sixth place finish for him is a great run. Kyle Busch, after all of his, we talk about the person that had the second most rough day behind Reed Sorensen had to be Kyle Busch, but still finishes in the 11th spot, just outside the top 10, 28.1 seconds back in the lead, and 4/10 just behind his brother Kurt to try to get in the top 10. Brad Keselowski used to be years ago that he was one of the big three guys that you'd always expect to be up front there, like Kyle Busch or Tony Stewart, those types. Finishing in the 9th spot today, that's one of the best runs I can recall him having at Watkins Glen the last few years, at least in the Ford. It seemed like he was much better in the Dodge, at least. At least that's how I remember it. Chris Buescher just outside the top 10 in the 13th spot. Michael McDowell had a great qualifying run yesterday. Ends up finishing in the 16th position. Jimmy Johnson with his first race with his new crew chief in the 19th spot. William Byron, that shunting match there with Kyle Busch ended up costing him even more. He ends up showing the 21st position. Joey Logano, who finished last in this race last year after running off course, he ends up in the 23rd spot. Bubba Wallace, how many fans did he actually gain? I tell you, still, if you're not at least somebody that's actively watching Bubba Wallace on a weekly basis after what he did in the All-Star race, getting that victory there at the end and double slamming the Coca-Cola bottles there. I think you should have been watching him already, but certainly what he did with Kyle Busch. I sat in basically those same stands there last year, and that is a rowdy bunch out there. They're when they see something they like, they're going to let you hear it. I posted earlier my videos from last year in the stands there, and you know, had a really good showing from there. But I think those guys got their money's worth with seeing all the crazy stuff going on there. Even further back, again, we mentioned Austin Dillon had a spin there down in turn 1, didn't get a chance to really recover from that. Ends up in the 31st spot. Rick Ware cars get 32nd and 33rd. Apparently, Ware had an issue with the transmission, lost third gear, and was losing ground there at the end. Okay, the results have now refreshed, so we should get the reasons out now listed. And look at this. Okay, unofficially, Reed Sorensen, he was qualified in the top 10. He qualified top 10 in both Bristol races that year, if I remember correctly. But in the spring race, he had stayed out during a pit cycle, was still even closer to the front, got dumped by another car there, just spun, didn't hit anything or anything, but pulled behind the wall. He had fallen out because of steering issues and that. This one very clearly stemming from the power steering leak that they had in turn 5. And apparently, I guess it started leaking again or something that pulled him behind. That was the situation. But clearly, he was struggling out there. And at this track, Ryan Newman may have been able to throw a car around here in 2002 and without power steering. And this is not cast aspersions on Reed Sorensen there, but it's difficult for Newman, and Newman being with his background in the sport. Certainly Reed Sorensen struggling with that as well. And unofficially, again, your last place finisher with steering issues. A rear gear issue is the listed problem for Ryan Preece that put him out in the closing laps. You think about rear gear issues, you think about Jerry Nadeau, demands on the mechanical equipment, and you look even further back here in 95, and back when they had grass in the runoff there in the inner loop, as you see, it was like Morgan Shepherd, Wood Brothers, a very different set of circumstances there. It can take something very easy to knock a car's mechanicals out of whack there, and it's just like that, you're back out of the show. Let's see, Daniel Hemrick in the 35th spot after we mentioned his wreck in the inner loop. Corey LaJoie 34th with an engine failure, ultimately taking him off the track there. Finishing in the 34th spot. Cody Ware running out the bottom 5 with the transmission issue. So all kinds of mechanical issues, even for a long race like this where, well, not a long race, but long green flag runs with not a lot of cautions there. It's going to put even more demands on the equipment there, and that's definitely the situation that you have here. Let's see. It's happening. It does look choppy and a bit pixelated, though. Not going to lie. Okay, that's not good. Let's see. It's not buffering on there. Any other issues? Let's definitely make sure anybody else mentioning if we're having issues. I only see 2 people in the chat here, so that's not promising. If it's becoming unwatchable, be frank. Tell me, and we'll refresh this and try to figure something out. The YouTube here for this seems to be working okay, and the Wi-Fi is running off the same thing. I got full bars. So if we're having a situation like we had at Pocono, you're choppy, but it's not that awful. Okay. All right. So we'll bear with it. We'll bear with it. That's the only guy. I think you're the only guy in here bad booking, but that's okay. We'll figure this out, and maybe it'll get better as we go along. We've had some of these races are just snake bit. We had that problem at Pocono a few weeks ago. I hope it's not an issue in this one because we got a lot of exciting things to talk about. But if it's an issue with that, we'll do that. Honestly, just listening to the audio, okay, well, we can do that too. That's okay. The videos is when we do this week's show, at least at this location, the visuals are kind of more secondary. I try to do more of those at the other location. We'll bring that back next week from Michigan, and hopefully the reception will be a lot better for that one. That's pretty much the Cup race here. Let's move into the Xfinity race. And first off, let's talk about the very real possibility that we almost had of having 2 drivers that did not start the race. That was a really exciting bit of statistics. Covering that at the house the other day, we had a situation there where both Vinnie Miller in the number 78 and the last-minute driver change there, the number 74, Dan Corcoran, driving the number 74 there, the Canadian driver, making his first ever NASCAR start in any of the top 3 series. Both of those drivers didn't start the race. And in fact, Miller in the number 78, as well as number 13, and Chad Fincham had to get pushed off the grid to get started. Fincham was able to get started, whereas Miller was not. And this was a problem on top of everything else for Miller during that weekend. He had I believe he had another power steering issue of his own. Got some fluid under the car, entering the S's and nosing into the outside wall. He got the new front valence for the Chevrolet there from the BJ McLeod team from, of all teams, GR Motors there. I mean, kudos to a big cup team to show some help for the small team, which makes it even more frustrating what happened in the race itself with the primary car's nose. It's just an Allgaier right in the back of Ross Chastain and turned him around during an on-track scuffle. Tit for tat, things like that happen there. But it's a situation where, you have it with a small team. The context does matter. I mean, talking about this the other day, you have a situation where a lot of these big teams, they can afford to, throw these cars around and they run into each other all the time. You see this with these chartered guys. But the Xfinity Series in particular, there's a lot of small teams out there that can't afford to, tear up a lot of equipment. I'm not saying that necessarily, immunizes you from, makes you immune rather, from any issues there that are going to eliminate you from a race. I mean, certainly Allgaier's going for the championship. He's had a frustrating year trying to break back in while drivers like Tyler Reddick are really stepping it up there and make it even more challenging. It's a frustrating situation there, but it could just be one of those things. It's just a racing deal at the end of the day. And Ross seems perfectly capable of being able to put such things in the background, given all the things that he's dealt with. And really just the last year alone, between the loss of the Chip Ganassi ride with DC Solar and then the disqualification that he had back in Iowa, and then ultimately coming back from that. So an interesting situation there. Looked like Miller was going to be our last place finisher. As mentioned, he didn't complete a lap of the race, and Corcoran looked like he wasn't going to. And Rex and everything filling out every spot there from 26 back to 36. But among those was AJ Allmendinger. Allmendinger put on a fantastic show there at the finish. Had a great race there. Again, the Colleague Racing number 10 machine, battling Austin Cindric for the lead, trying to hold off Cindric. Cindric trying to get his first Xfinity Series victory. And the number 22 car, the Money Lion machine. Allmendinger had a great showing there, leading 24 laps. Looked like Allmendinger was going to hold him off there. But on that last restart there with 7 laps to go, Christopher Bell gets crossed up and somehow, I have no idea how, managed to not collect everybody else in a big pile up there. That allowed Cindric to squeeze by with fresh tires, which had up until then been a rather questionable call because it didn't seem like he was going to gain that many spots. The incident provided the perfect opportunity for him to get through the pack there, and then he just tracked down Allmendinger in the final couple of laps, both of them running over each other into the braking zones, forcing them into mistakes. Allmendinger ultimately made the last mistake there in the turn 7 coming onto the main straightaway, allowed Cindric to get back to his inside. They get side by side again. And Cindric ends up pulling off the victory, the first of his career. Definitely congratulations to him. But it's unfortunate that Allmendinger, on top of all this, had the disqualification. And much like at Daytona, where they had a great story, 3 Colleague Racing cars finishing in the top 3 with Ross Chastain, Justin Haley, and AJ Allmendinger round out the group. Of course, part of the weekend where Haley would go on to win his first Cup Series race for Spire Motorsports. Time of the year where Ross Chastain has been just dominant in the Truck Series, been just the Cinderella story of the year, trying to get things turned around and then winning in the Xfinity Series on top of that in one of NASCAR's biggest races of the year. Allmendinger being very much a part of that, losing his ride to Ryan Preece, who we mentioned earlier, JTG Darty Racing, being more of an announcer, much like Parker Kligerman in that sense, and running with that team. And then, unfortunately, having a situation where, once again, he's unable to really share in the enjoyment with the Colleague Racing team, which has gone through so much already, on top of the passing of Nick Harrison at Loudon a couple weeks ago. Now having a situation where apparently they're just having some real struggles getting these cars through post-race tech. Apparently there's an issue with the height of the rear end of the car. Not sure what was exactly going on with that. But hopefully they can figure that out and go trophy hunting again. Because, again, Colleague Racing seems to be really fronting a lot of their effort into the Xfinity Series and doing the very best they can to be as competitive as they can. But unfortunately, it was a situation where they end up classified last for the second time in a month, just under a month, in fact, between Daytona and then now Watkins Glen. Not sure what Allmendinger's plans are for the rest of this year, if he's going to run with the Colleague Racing team. I would guess they would probably field that car at the Roval again, given his road prowess. and run that car again. Hopefully they don't have any of these technical issues that they're having or whatever. But that's going to be an interesting story to follow in the weeks coming up ahead. Looking further back in the finishing order there, Jimmy Clements had a great weekend at Watkins Glen. He ends up starting 11th and finishing 11th there in the number 51 car. Looked like he was going to have an even better run than that. That's going to be one of the best cars that he had since he won back at Road America a couple of years ago. So that was an interesting deal there. Greg Alding continues his top 15 to top 20 streak there, finishing in the 15th spot. Again, qualified 15th. A good run for him. Brandon Brown gets spun out by Tommy Joe Martins in the inner loop at one point. He ends up finishing in the 18th position. Tommy Joe in his first start for Motorsports Business Management. Very excited about that, he was, and a great paint scheme on the number 66 from Diamond Gusset Jeans Company that has followed him for a very long time. Unfortunately, things didn't work out for him. Had a suspension part break, almost ran into BJ McLeod there heading into turn number 1, just spun the car out. That ultimately took him out of the race. It's actually listed under an accident there, listing him in the 28th spot. BJ McLeod was eliminated soon after under the damaged vehicle policy. McLeod had spent several laps behind the wall well in the early stages of the race before getting back out there. But the bottom 5, Allmendinger lifts Vinnie Miller out of the last place finish. We could have had, again, I mentioned earlier, 2 drivers potentially being did not starts for the first time in several years. I believe I said it was 1990 at Daytona with Morgan Shepherd and Kirk Bryant. Ultimately, in this result, it's interesting. It raised an interesting rules question. This is something I'm still going to kind of look into. So I'm curious. It used to be even further back. The last time we saw a driver finish last because he didn't start the race was in 1993 in the Southern 500, where I believe it was Ken Bouchard driving for Thea Dixon's team, Burger King car, got pulled behind the wall. No, it wasn't Ken Bouchard. It was Bob Schacht. Let me make sure I got that correct. It was Bob Schacht, the number 85 car. And let me pull that up here and get that result because I want to make sure I get that correct. Another bit of history in the Southern 500 doesn't get talked about that much, but we'll certainly be discussing that more as we get closer to Darlington in a couple of weeks, and we'll talk about that as well as we go through here. Bob Schacht in the number 85 car was listed as a did not start in the race. And we've seen other situations like this before. Premium Motorsports, we mentioned earlier that Ryan Preece drove for in the past. They had a really bad stretch back in 2015 where there were a couple of races that Timmy Hill, like he wasn't going to start. But those weren't actually end up being listed as does not starts. Ultimately, he came back out there and completed some more laps. We had a different situation with him versus these other drivers. It makes one wonder if a did not start is something that they don't use anymore. I brought up some other examples there between the K&N West race with John Wood's number 38 car being listed as a mechanical issue and not a did not start, even though the car was pushed out of line once the engines were actually fired. A bit of a little interesting trivia how that all worked out. And then you look at the situation with Josh Wise again with, once again, Premium Motorsports in the duels. He couldn't start his duel, and even though he didn't complete any laps, apparently, presenting the car is enough that the issue that causes the did not start then becomes the listed reason out. So that one, for example, I would believe was an ignition issue. Man, it's a beautiful car. I love that Coors Light paint scheme that Kyle Petty ran. Unfortunately, it's like it's not having a good run there so far, off the pace, heading there through there. But my point in bringing this up there is it seems like there are some possible listed reasons out that just don't come up anymore. And maybe the did not start one has gone the way of the dodo. I mentioned one being quit that was originally used perhaps in very often in like the early 90s for start and park drivers, for drivers that just literally quit the race. Like that was just literally the reason out. There's actually a number of examples from that when you look further back from about 1993 and earlier. It makes me wonder if in 1993 or perhaps sometime afterwards, there was a change either in the rule book or just in the regular protocol that these teams do, where they're not going to use did not start as a reason. And just like they're not going to use quit. You remember back at the start when we started doing LastStar.info, you had a lot of these start and park efforts out there, and they were only completing a certain number of laps and finishing further down the roster, but they never said quit. And you could probably see why, because there were so many start and park teams back then. We had 5 or 6 people that were further back. It would just show quick or quit over and over again. But now they were actually listed as mechanical issues. They say, okay, well, this one was an ignition, this one was a suspension, this one was brake issues, and it would change all the time. I'm not sure if that's something that the team would be able to say, or if it's something that goes with the officials just determine it from whatever information they're given. Obviously, when they have these cars pulled behind the wall, they have officials standing by to communicate and update with things that happen. But I've never seen like an actual decision made as to what the thing was. I'm sure that the process begins with the driver pulling behind the wall, an official meets them there, and the official asks, what's happening? Is like, are you going to be working on the car? The driver goes like, well, yeah, we're going to work on this. And if they're not, then like say, okay, it's like, the official probably would go up to the person and say, hey, are you done? The driver says, okay, yeah, I'm done. I'm out because this broke or something. And I would assume that that's the situation because the drivers are going to know what the situation is, unless it's the officials listening into the radio and they hear something and say, oh, well, I think the suspension broke or something like that. They just use that and relay it back. I'm not sure on that process. That would be a really interesting thing to find out. Maybe that'll be something that's going to come up here in these next couple of weeks. I think it's very possible, especially in Mosport, given that the Truck Series still has a number of start and park teams. We saw that at Phoenix just last year. A lot of teams that come in. That's the thing that interests me, and that's definitely a key element of these last place battles because much like we saw at Sears Point earlier this year, once a team says that they're done, they can't come back out, and that's when they get entered in. Whatever the reason that was transmission, brakes, or whatever. We saw this with Rick Ware's team, like I mentioned there with J.J. Yaley. He had pulled into the garage area just before Chase Elliott fell out, and there were actually discussions about 51 coming back out there and gaining that spot, if only to make however much more they make in prize money. Obviously, we don't see that information anymore. We know the open teams make less than others, although the 51 is now a chartered team. So, again, one spot for them would make a big difference. Or if it's just for pride or whatever. But they were shown out of the race, so they couldn't actually make any advantage there, and that was the end of that. But an interesting story. Certainly, it ended up being secondary in the Xfinity race because Allmendinger ended up getting disqualified, and now the story goes that direction. But definitely something to look ahead to in these next few races ahead. I'm definitely going to be interested in seeing what kind of stories we get on that kind of a deal. You remember Josh Wise being on a short time, being on track? Yeah, duel. I got to look that up again. I haven't looked that up in a while, but I seem to remember him being on pit road and then trying to fire the car up. Maybe he was on pit road after making a lap and coming in, although I don't think he completed a lap. Maybe his pit stall was short of the stripe. But I got to watch that race again. So you can be right on that beast of metal. It's a different situation there. And yes, you mentioned the did not start in Michigan in 2015. This is another thing that factors into a did not start. You raise a good point there. CJ Faison, driving the number 26 car for JGL Racing, he had a wreck, I believe, in qualifying, and that was the only car that they had ready for him. So, but they had also a field where I don't know if it was. I try to remember the situation. I got to look up the article here. I should do it that way rather than just guessing here. It was something about he was in a qualifying wreck. And if it was a situation where the lap that he had turned before wrecking in qualifying was good enough to get him into the race, and then he couldn't start the race because he didn't have a car, and so that did not start, or if it was a short field and he was just one of those entrants that was in there, and whatever lap he put up, he was going to be in the race, and then when he couldn't present a car, then it did not start. That could be the difference right there. It certainly was a situation in 1990 for Morgan Shepherd. We're talking about the last time it happened in the Xfinity Series with two of them. In fact, the first time it ever happened in what is today the Xfinity Series was that race in 1990. Shepherd had a practice accident. And again, being with his own team back then, the number 97 car, this being separate from Tom Winkle, who had fielded his number 97 car in the Cup Series back in 1988. That being an effort there, it's likely they didn't have another car, had a very similar situation to Faison. Let's see here. His tab return for Saturday's next round in Michigan. He was 27th fastest in practice. Qualifying, he turned the 30th fastest lap in qualifying. And then in turn 4, ruptured a water line that got moisture under his wheels. Number 26 switched ends and backed into the outside wall. And apparently the car was pulled behind the wall and able to start the race. Okay, so Yeah, so he did complete the lap that qualified him for the race, and then he wasn't able to present that car for the race because of the damage from incident there with the water pump. Here's the article there on that. I'll post that in the chat here. I think I posted it on Twitter the other day as well. As you can see, pit stops unfolding there in the Watkins Glen race with Terry Labonte and the others. Boom, there we go. So, let's see. Let's take a look at everything else in the Xfinity race. Do we have any good finishes here? I mean, we talked about Greg Galding. We talked about Brandon Jones. Again, continuing to be an interesting story this year. Good to see Cody Ware back in the car running both races here at Watkins Glen. He finished 21st for BJ McLeod in the number 99 car there. Again, Dan Corcoran, I mean, again, for missing the start of the race because of whatever issues they were having on the 74 and getting back out there, climbing all the way up to the 25th spot. I mean, it's a great showing for them. One thing that we definitely have to talk about is we talked about the Chastain and Allgaier situation already. Let's talk about the situation with Kyle Busch's car during that Xfinity Series race. An interesting situation there where a suspension part failed in the upper control arm there behind the left front wheel, and that the wheel started dipping in there and really knocking the camber completely out of line. And then once that happened, the car went in a straight line, and he just barely was able to escape that car to a stop. Without making too much of it, it certainly did bring back memories of what happened with J.D. McDuffie's accident in 1991. Very different circumstances for a number of reasons. Of course, not having the inner loop, approach that corner at a much higher speed. Of course, in a Cup Series car, different amounts of horsepower versus an Xfinity Series car. And also in a situation where there was grass. I mean, there was a little bit of grass in that runoff, but they've definitely changed it a lot from the way it was back in 1991. And that's very obvious when you compare footage from those two accidents. It used to be that runoff area was much bigger, but it was now a curve. The wall that lines turn number 5 there, the carousel, curves around it a lot, and that brings it a lot closer. There's still a little sliver there, which is where Kyle Busch's car ran off course. But as you can see, it's a very short distance. There's not a whole lot of time. If anything goes sideways there, including in that corner, even though it's a much lower speed corner than it used to be, it's very surprising that he didn't hit the wall there and very hard. The turn 1 in comparison has much more runoff than turn 5 does nowadays. Used to be, if you look at much older races, including this race right here, you'll notice that the wall goes out at right angle. That the two walls, the wall alongside very tip of turn 5 goes out in a straight line. It meets this other one. And there's a big tower there, a big spotter tower, which is where Ned Jarrett was standing in that day in 91. And the tower there used to be a lot closer to the track surface, or at least to that runoff area. Now it's kind of separated off a little bit, and the wall is just very different. When you get to if you ever go to the track, it's definitely something I recommend you check out because it's very different from that time period. And again, that difference is shown there. It did make me wonder in watching that if maybe that's another piece of the puzzle there as to what kind of situation could have happened. If you had a situation, God forbid, where a driver went into that corner and had that same problem that Kyle Busch had, where the camber is knocked out and the wheel basically tumbles back into the inside of the car, and it's pushed out there, and to a certain degree, that's going to really put a lot of stress on suspension parts. Where they had talked about other parts that may have failed in the left front of J.D. McDuffie's car, because of course that was the same wheel that had come off the number 70 that day. Is that something that could have actually caused that accident? So it made me wonder on that. It did give me pause for sure, but certainly, you're thankful for things being very different now than they used to be in those circumstances there. That's an unusual camera angle there. But I did think that was interesting because it was, yeah. And exactly, yeah. I mean, a much slower speed going into that corner. Obviously, it's not going to be nearly as serious of an accident. I mean, if you look at JD's accident, the speed was, almost twice as much, if not more, going in there, and the angle was at just such a degree that the car had been hopping off the curb and into the grass and everything from there. So again, safety coming a long way in that sense, and Watkins Glen definitely adjusting itself very much to that situation. But again, it did give me a moment to really kind of think about what had happened from there, and if that was something that was playing a role there. But again, Austin Cindric, your winner in the Zippo 200 there. Christopher Bell in second, inheriting that spot from A.J. Allmendinger. Justin Allgaier, Ryan Blaney, and Tyler Reddick rounding out your top five. Yeah, so we're now at a part of the year. We're going to have a lot of road courses coming up. You got Mid-Ohio. You also got Road America. And then, of course, Flowsport coming up on that same weekend as Road America. Going to be really exciting coming up. And, of course, I'll go ahead and jump into this now because we've made it official earlier this week. Very excited to say that we did get our credentials approved for both those races, for both Mosport at the end of August and for Darlington the week after that. And this was, first of all, a big thank you both to the folks at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park in Bowmanville, Ontario, as well as to the Southern 500 people, Gary Tharp and the folks there at the Darlington Raceway. For the Southern 500. Very excited to get to work over there and cover both of those races for you guys and get some last place work there. Planning on spending a lot of time in the garage for both those rounds and finding out what happens there at the back of the field. So that's going to allow us to cover all three of the major national series in those 2 weeks. Again, we're going to start with Mosport. We're going to head out there. Our good friend Robert Taylor there we're going to be staying with. And seeing what's going on with the truck series there as they return to the road course there. We're going to do our first international coverage there for LastCar.info. Our Joey Logano article from Watkins Glen last year was actually the first one written out of the country, but this will be the first one where we're actually going to be doing some coverage out of the country and looking to do some work there. And then we're going to get that taken care of. We're also going to be looking ahead to Darlington the following week. Our return to Throwback Weekend, which we're very excited about. We covered that back in 2017. We got that great picture of Morgan Shepherd working on his car there after he pulled behind the wall. The Dale Jr. liked there on Twitter. We got some good coverage from that. Of course, the throwback schemes. There's a lot of really exciting ones this year. And going to be really interesting to see what the situation is. Speaking of throwback schemes, one that we're particularly going to be keeping our eye on is going to be the William Byron throwback with the Days of Thunder scheme there, the old Cole Trickle car. And, of course, in the Xfinity Series, the Rowdy Burns car is going to be riding again with our good friend Jeremy Clements there, the owner-driver we mentioned earlier, again, 11th this weekend at Watkins Glen. Very excited to get some coverage on that, give you guys all the information there. Definitely stay tuned to lastcar.info as well as my Twitter at lastcaronbrock. As we have some more information on that. We're making final preparations for that trip there. We're hoping that we may have another announcement relating to those couple of weeks there in a little bit. Not ready to make that yet. We're still waiting to hear back on another thing there, but we'll have some more information relating to that going ahead. And it's going to be really good. So definitely look forward to that. Speaking of Days of Thunder, I don't know if we touched on this really that much last week. We have our second video posted on the YouTube channel, why Days of Thunder is awesome and always will be. I do stand by that. It's had a good bit of discussion since posting it on there. First of all, the discussion about how to pronounce the term hyperbole. I do apologize for that for those of you out there following the grammar there. I am an English major. I cannot excuse mispronouncing a term like that. So my apologies there. I know putting that at the very end of the video, the conclusion was probably not the wisest decision. But it was a very fun video to put together. And actually the sequel of the video, which is going to be on a movie review of Driven, is very close to being completed. I hope to have that up first in the Patreon this week, and then it'll be made publicly available the days after that later on. So if you want to get the first view of the Driven review, I highly recommend it. Join our Patreon, patreon.com/lastcaronbrock. If you join any dollar level for as little as $1, not only is you will get the access to all the material in Patreon, but your name will also go on a magnet that we're going to put on the back of our rental car for the upcoming trip from Bowmanville to Darlington. And at the end of that trip, that magnet is going to be auctioned off to any of the members of the Patreon, and we'll mail that out to you. So first of some other promotions that we're going to be doing for the website. If it's successful, we're going to keep doing it for future races. We already have 7 names on there. Not as many as Corey LaJoy had on his car, of course, but a fantastic job, by the way, there with Corey and his promotion there with the Samaritan organization there to help spread shoes and everything to lower income families. Fantastic effort there, made for a great story. It's unfortunate they couldn't get a better run than they did, apparently, again, an engine failure bringing him out into the bottom 5, but great exposure for a good cause. And we're looking to do something very similar to that there with the website, and again promoting promoting the website and keeping us rolling to keep doing these races and everything. And again, if you want to get your name on our car there, just $1 can get you on there. We're going to order the magnet pretty soon. We're going to order it here this next week. If you sign up for it after that, we'll do like what Corey did, and we'll just have your name written on there, and we'll get that on there, and you'll still, of course, be entered in the drawing there at the end of that point. So we're going to get ready for that. So we're very close to getting that set up, and we're looking ahead to both Sport in Darlington. So again, stay tuned for everything at the website, as well as the next video that we're going to have up. A lot of exciting things going on here. So thank you all for supporting the website, supporting the Patreon, and keeping everything one foot in front of the other there. We're going to jump back a few days, and we're going to talk about the Truck Series at Eldora. And then we're going to do some trivia after that as we continue to wait out the clock here on, I almost said Casey Mears, Chase Elliott's first win at, second win now at Watkins Glen, not the second career win. Second win of the season, second win at Watkins Glen, winning today, the number 9 car there. Fantastic run for him, and we wait out the inspection results. We'll go back further to Thursday, the Eldora Dirt Derby. A very busy week in general between the top 3 series. Began with the Truck Series race on Thursday. I apologize we didn't do a disqualification show after that. Time constraints didn't really allow for that at the time. But a fantastic race there, I have to say. Certainly for Stuart Friesen there, and finally getting his first Truck Series victory. Great run for him. I mean, certainly he's come close so many times. You think about Casey Kane in the Cup Series, or Harry Gant in the Cup Series, or other drivers that just come close several times, never seem to be able to quite break through. But then you have a situation there where Friesen has been very much that guy, and finally breaks through. Had this race won last year, it slipped away from him at the end, and you had a situation where Chase Briscoe was up there with Grant Enfinger. Briscoe being a factor very much again, in spite of how battered his truck was. Very few trucks came out of that one without any damage. But very enjoyable race, I'd have to say. It was a great show there. Really enjoying Eldora, and we're actually looking ahead to next year. So the very real possibility of looking into covering that race as well. Again, contingent on a lot of things happening, not least of which being credentials. Again, we're going one race at a time and trying to figure all that out, but we would love to be able to do that one. I think next year's could be a really interesting race, seeing where it is on the schedule and everything. So we'll have some more information on that coming up the months and weeks ahead. In the meantime, our next race that we're going to be looking for after our Darlington Most Sport thing is going to be between Phoenix and Texas in November, the beginning of November. We're not going to start planning or preparing or anything on that until we finish this one up, but we'll have some more information on that very soon to keep you posted on that. But if everybody likes the magnet thing that we're going to do for the rental car, we'll do another one for Phoenix and Texas, and we'll do the same deal. Once we announce it, everybody that's in the Patreon will automatically be on the magnet, and anybody who joins afterwards will be in there. So another reason to jump on board there to get you some last car swag. So we always have to hook you guys up there as best we can. Speaking of which, the offer is still out there. I signed up for the donation program there with Corey LaJoy. I mean, again, a fantastic cause out there. Definitely give it a look if you haven't checked it out already. I put a request in there to have JD McDuffie's name put on the car. I don't know if it's actually been on there or not. Whatever. That's not a big deal. The important thing there is, again, the donation. But the offer is still out there that if anybody has any pictures of the car and you find either my name or JD McDuffie's name on the car, I'll go ahead and send you a last car bumper sticker. No worries on that. I'm going to go ahead and keep that out there. So I know I want to put that out there because we had a whole lot of people out there that were sending some fantastic pictures of last place finishers through the weekend. And I want to make sure that I credit all of them as best as possible. We've seen a lot more of this in recent weeks, but we've seen this even more really between the Saturday race, the Xfinity Series. So I definitely want to give a shout out to all of them here while we're waiting here. Let me get this pulled up. Come on, come on, come on. First of all, one I have to mention, one I know for sure that sent pictures was Mike Raphael, Mike Motorsport on Twitter. He sent some great pictures, especially coming off of pit road. I believe he's also sent some of the number 77 today. Michael Metzger of the Start and Park blog had some great shots from over in turn 7, including some shots from the cars at the very beginning of the race there. Let's look also at, I should have these names more readily available. Let me scroll back even further here. Let's see. Spencer Gogol, I know he sent pictures as well. Big thanks to Spencer out there for the pictures he sent. Those were also brought out. And again, I can't overemphasize how important like these pictures and how much help they are. Like very much like even when I did the JD McDuffie book, you can learn so much from a picture that you just can't pick up from the broadcast. And being able to catch those moments when they aren't caught on camera, that's the kind of thing that keeps me going. So if anybody out there is planning on going to a race and you got a camera and you got a way that you can either post it on Twitter or send it to my email address, which is on the website there or anything like that, please do it because we love having that material. We're a small organization. We have to be resourceful with what we have. And we definitely love it when our readers are able to participate in there. And we give credit to all people's pictures and material that's provided on the website there. We do as best as we can with that as well because we want to make sure that we give you guys the attention that you get as well on that. We got Mike Raphael on here with his pictures here. Let's see. I know there were a few others here. There's Spencer Gogol. He had the picture of the number 78 car with the red nose on it. I mean, just great pictures all around this weekend. I mean, definitely check the Twitter feed there at Last Car and Brock if you want to see some of their shots, and give them a follow on Twitter there as well. They do great work out there. Some of them I know Raphael and Gogol have sent pictures to me in the past there before, and again, always love getting to be able to put more pictures out there and to figure out how to work all that in with these articles from over the weekend here. I'm sure I'll find the other names on there, but in the meantime, again, big thanks to all of you out there. Let's pull it further back here and looking back at the Truck Series race again. Mike Marlar, the 4th place finisher in Eldora, great run for him. First top 5 finish ever for the Rion Brothers Racing. Great run for them out there, and a bit of controversy there behind the scenes, as was discussed on Twitter the other day, where he was sponsored by Marathon Oil and had a Marathon Oil uniform, I believe, from his other short track races. And NASCAR intervened and made them take the logos off the truck. But he still had the logo on his uniform, and he got some TV time with a great finish. So hopefully that offset any losses or anything with exposure for a sponsor. Kudos also to Smithfield Homes for jumping on board to sponsor the number 33 that weekend. That's a sponsor we most often see with Chad Fincham in the Xfinity Series. A great effort there to help them out, and we're able to get on the car that weekend. Looking further back here, Justin Shipley in the 11th spot. I mean, amazing save that he made there on the backstretch. The second most amazing save of the weekend. The first, of course, being Christopher Bell's deal there in the S's in the Saturday's race in the Xfinity Series. Just avoiding Ross Chastain's spin down the back straightaway. We mentioned also Tim Ward with the Kart Idaho Racing Team. We see these guys in the K&N West Series with Travis Milburn. Great run for them. They get a truck shaken down, the number 08 out there, and he ends up finishing in the 16th spot. In the driver's first start here, and the team's first ever start in the Truck Series. That's the kind of stuff you love to see. But the thing I liked even more, and I featured him in the article there, was Darwin Peters Jr., the crew chief for TJL Racing, driving the former Mike Harmon truck, now owned by Lou Goss. Goss's truck wasn't even ready at Iowa when it was entered there. They used the garage area to finish that truck up and run it at Gateway. He ran just a couple of laps, didn't finish in the last spot, but was at the bottom of the field there. Brings the same truck out there, puts Darwin Peters in there, and they get a 17th place finish. Fantastic run for them. I have to give kudos to them. You know, as much as Last Car is about people that finish at the bottom of the field and talking about the story about the last place finisher, those are the stories that we like talking about, and those are the stories we like bringing to you. So very much happy to share more and give Peters some more exposure there, and hopefully the very best of luck to the Lou Goss team as they plan for whatever the next race is. I'm certainly hoping that they make the trip up to Canada, although I know for a small team, crossing the border is an expensive effort, and we'll see what happens there. But it's always the possibility. We'll see what happens there. But whoever shows up at Mosport, be very excited to see what happens there. And the entry list that we do that week is going to be a good way to kind of get us started there. For that week. Jake Griffin, I want to give a shout out to him after having a great run with the Red Horse Racing a couple of years ago. He gets in the Micah Ferrano's truck. Micah Ferrano was last at Eldora just a few years ago, the number 03 truck, that bright neon pink truck that looks like something out of a 1990s Trapper Keeper. Love that paint scheme. It seemed like they had even more fun with it this year. And Griffin had a great run in his heat race, was challenging for the second spot with Todd Gilliland of Kyle Busch Motorsports. Another thing where the Gilliland team, we saw that earlier this year with the Kyle Busch Motorsports team with Ross Chastain being on the rise there with East Motorsports. Again, a situation here where Griffin is just giving him all he can handle. Unfortunately, ended up 26th after a flat tire earlier in the race, dropped him laps off the pace. He had a hard time keeping up from there. An unfortunate situation there for him. And then, of course, your last place finisher is Austin Hill, who had never finished last in the Truck Series prior to that. Even in his time driving for Young's Motorsports, ends up being further back there. He gets collected into an unusually large accident in turn one that collected a number of different drivers. Some of them actually came back out there. But Hill ended up being your last place finisher. Again, very excited. I thought it was a really enjoyable race. That was between two work shifts for me, so I was just sitting there, ordered a pizza, and just relaxed and watched that one. I really enjoyed it. Eldora Thursday is one that we look forward to every year, and I think it would be a great idea if we actually tried to cover that next year. So that's one that we're looking at, although our 2020 last car schedule is still coming together. Sears Point is certainly one that we're going to look to have on there, of course, because we love going out there and covering our home race as many times as they'll have us. But Eldora is one of the first ones that we're looking at beyond that to start filling the schedule in from there. And we'll have more information on that again as we get closer to that date. Looking at the rest of the running order here, again, we mentioned Chase Briscoe coming back from damage. We didn't talk about Tyler Dipple and a bit of the shoving match that he had with Ben Rhodes there at the end of the Truck Series race. That was a bit of entertaining stuff there. We've had a little bit of that in all the races this weekend. We saw Bubba Wallace and Kyle Busch today. We saw the situation with Ross Chastain and Justin Allgaier yesterday, and then Tyler Dipple and Ben Rhodes in the Thursday race there. Really exciting stuff all around. I mean, if you like watching people throwing elbows and making things interesting, this has certainly been the weekend for you. And with the road courses continuing to build up with Mid-Ohio and Road America and Mosport coming up, I mean, man, that's going to be a lot of fun stuff. I mean, I love this time of the year with the road courses there. And, of course, we have the stuff with Sears Point before. It promises to be a really interesting part of the season and a good lead-in to the playoffs from there. And happy to be a part of it. So, again, really excited about the coverage for Mosport and for Darlington. It is still kind of settling in there. We're getting some stuff planned out there for what our approach is going to be that weekend. And I do have another plan we're going to announce about that weekend coming up. Something that's going to tie in with Last Car's 10th anniversary, which is another reason we wanted to cover that race again this year after we missed out last year. This has been the 10th anniversary season for the website. We got something special lined up for that as well. We're going to throw back and party like it's 2009 all over again, and look forward to that as well. And if you're at Darlington, definitely give me a shout, or if you're at Mosport as well, for our Canadian viewers out there, definitely let me know. We'd love to meet up. If you want to, just talk racing, talk last place finishers. Hey, I'm game, and we'll do all that stuff there. So that about covers it for the top three series here. Christian Eckes, and you mentioned there a good mention, bad booking there. Great run for Eckes as well. I still think back to that first run he had, or one of his first runs at Gateway last year, and how good he was out there. That guy's just continuing to knock on the door, and we've seen with young William Saki's coverage there, the ARCA series. Of course, he's been doing really well in that division as well, coming back from some last place finishes to get some consistency back under him. Let's see here. I'm not seeing anything on this. Let's check the timer here, as we now are an hour and 11 minutes into the wait unofficially for inspection results. So as we now wait for inspection, it's now come to the moment that you've all been waiting for. We are back to NASCAR trivia again. Now, a little bit of a casting change from last week and the shots in the white room. Now in the gray room this week, And pretty much for now, when we are in the gray room, we are going to be using this. This is a Trivial Pursuit NASCAR thing, again from 1998. A thing, I have a better name for it. The thing here is, again, very similar interface to what we had with the Ricky Rudd car. We're just still use the Ricky Rudd car in the other place. We use those for future races. But up here, just to make sure we stretch these questions as much as possible, we're going to use ones on this. Again, this is also made from 1998, so we're going to have questions from that same era. We're going to do question and answers. What's even better with this, since it's Trivial Pursuit, is that it's actually categorized. We have different categories. And let me go through that. Does it have them listed on the back here? I think it's got like a different thing here. But we'll get that started, and we'll do some trivia here as we're continuing to wait for inspection results. Let me get this queued up to Pockrus's page. And if anybody else here is a call, go ahead and definitely jump in here, and we'll hear what the situation is. All right. There is Pockrus's page. We'll keep that up here, and we'll get started. So, okay, so here's the categories that we have. Well, I'll leave it open to the group here as to which category you want to start off with. We have 8 people in the chat here. We'll see who is going to get the first right answer. But first, we're going to pick the categories. The first category is NASCAR. The second category is pits, so garage questions. The third question is teams, the teams category. Our fourth category is Jeopardy. Fourth category is tracks. Our fifth category is drivers. And our sixth category is the wild card. So, okay, so to review again, go ahead and put in your picks about which category you want us to start with. We'll start with NASCAR, pits, teams, tracks, drivers, and the wild card. Okay, we have a vote for drivers. Anybody else's pick there? Which category we go with? Whoever wants the most. We'll start with that one. And we'll go through here. We'll make sure this works. Not hearing any other options. We'll go ahead and start with drivers. Let's start with drivers, and we'll go from here. Pits, teams, tracks, drivers. Okay. Alrighty. So who complained? Okay, here we go. Here comes the trivia. First trivia question of the day. Who complained, quote, Dale Earnhardt would give an aspirin a headache? Who complained Dale Earnhardt would give an aspirin a headache? Who said that quote? Any guesses on the driver? I mean, it's drivers is category. So who would say that Dale Earnhardt would give an aspirin a headache? I'm not sure on this one. This is a tricky one. Darrell Waltrip, that's a good guess. That's a good guess. Cale Yarborough, okay, there's another one. We'll see here. All right. Any other guesses here? Who would give an aspirin a headache? And let me make sure I hit the right button here so we get the right answer. Answer, Buddy Baker. Buddy Baker. There we go. I'm not sure how tricky this thing is compared to the Rudd car. I like the Rudd car a lot because that thing about Jaws, that still sticks to my craw that it was going to pull the fast one on here. Okay, let's get the next question here. We want to stick with drivers? Let's stick with drivers. All right. Who said he hit the wall at Bristol so hard it knocked his shoes off? Who said he hit the wall at Bristol so hard it knocked his shoes off? So who said that quote? Is this going to be another Buddy Baker quote, or is this going to be something else? Who said he hit the wall at Bristol so hard he knocked his shoes off? Michael Waltrip. We have Bill Elliott. Any other guesses? We have 8 people in the chat. I only see 2 people guessing. You want anybody else to jump in? Don't be shy. I'm not going to bite your head off. Don't worry about that. Dale Earnhardt. Oh, it's a stupid pick. Nah, just kidding. Just kidding. There you go, Dale Earnhardt. Who else are we going to get here? All right, everybody give up? Hit the wall at Bristol so hard it knocked the shoes off. The answer, David Pearson. Who Jeff would on? That would have been a good guess, too. I can see him saying that. David Pearson is your answer. Hit the wall Bristol so hard he knocked his shoes off. If I remember correctly, he had a disqualification at Bristol at one point, too. I know he had a last place finish there, because you didn't feature on that. David Pearson. I got to know. Unfortunately, it doesn't give context to like what year it happened. That would be really interesting. But okay. All right. Third question. All right. Whoop. Okay. I got to clear that question. We already did that. Okay. All right. We did that. Okay. We did the answer. Okay. Why is it just... Okay, here we go. Okay, it's going back to category again. Okay, back to drivers again. What win prompted Dale Earnhardt to crow, "It tops them all, buddy"? It tops them all, buddy, Dale Earnhardt said. What win had him say that? It tops them all, buddy. Dale Earnhardt said that after winning which race? It tops them all. I'm guessing that this is, any guesses on that? Daytona 500? Yeah, that's what it sounds like. 98 500, the answer? Daytona 500. There you go. Okay, see, an easier question. This has hard questions. I'm glad. I remember we used to take this thing on road trips. We'll probably do it again here. Actually, we should take this back again for the trips there. I don't know if we're going to do any live streams for Motorsport Darlington weeks, but I'm going to try to work something out. I'm going to talk to some people here, and we'll see if we can get that worked out. If nothing else, to at least do this. All right, let's see here. All right, drivers, we're back again. What was Neil? Oh, here we go. Wait a minute. Okay, hang on. All right, here we go. Here we go. What was Neil Castle's real first name? What was Neil Castle's real first name? Don't take too long to guess. Just jump in. If you take too long to guess, I'm going to think you're looking at Google. So just guess. Neil Castle's real first name. I thought Neil Castle's real first name was Neil. Like, so this is bizarre. Okay. What was Neil Castle's real first name? You know, yeah, that was made before the 90. It says 1998 on the copyright, so maybe it was made after the 500. So that would probably be it. Richard? Okay, there's a guess there. Any other guesses for what was Neil Castle's first name? That's the latest one. It must have been made. I mean, the 500 was in February. Maybe this was made in the summer of 98. I got this in 2001 while you're guessing what Neil Castle's first name is. I got this in 2001 at the grad night party at Deer Valley High School in Antioch, California. They had a little gambling table. You had to win a certain number of tickets, and they had like a prize thing, like a Chuck E. Cheese thing. And I saw this. I was like, I don't know how many tickets I need to win, but I'm going to get those to get this thing. And luckily, I was the only NASCAR fan in the entire school, so it was still there for sure. But we got enough. I think it was like roulette or something. We got this one. So I've had this ever since. This thing's always been fantastic. Lloyd. Okay, Neil Castle's first name. Henry Castles. That was the first name of Neil Castles. Neil, of course, nicknamed Soapy Castles, or the number 06 car, another car that Dale Earnhardt used to run briefly. Wow, Morgan Shepherd is not having a good day in this race. He has just crumpled the number 21 there pretty good. You know, I do this off center so you can see me in the race. If you want, I can move this over. You can see the race too. Probably get a better job, but that'd probably be more enjoyable. Yeah, let's do that. That's kind of silly otherwise. You don't need to see my face the whole time. We'll just do this off screen here. We'll do the questions. The questions will continue. You can still hear me okay? You probably can hear me. If you can't hear me, that'll be all right. All right, next question. Let's see. Who had won two quarter midgets national championships by the age of 10? Oh, Robert Presley not having a good day either. Who had won two quarter midgets national championships by the age of 10? That is the question. Two quarter midget championships. Any picks there as to, that would be Jeff Gordon. We have the first vote there. Any other picks? You think it's Gordon or do you think it's somebody else? Any other picks there? Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart. That's another good pick. There we go. Jeff Gordon. We have two for Gordon, one for Stewart. The answer, Kenny Irwin Jr. The answer, Jeff Gordon. Kenny Irwin's a good guess too. Jeff Gordon is your answer. Jeff Gordon, two quarter midget championships by the age of 10. Oh, Derek Cope spun out there too. Yikes. All right. Here we go. Drivers. Let's keep going with the drivers category here. What driver was the first to win the Southern 500? Oh, this is really good. 3 times in a row. What driver was first to win the Southern 500 3 times in a row? Any picks for that? 3 consecutive Southern 500s, where last car is heading in a couple of weeks. The Southern 500 3 times in a row, the first driver to ever do so. The first, not necessarily the most recent driver to do so. And again, this thing was made sometime during 1998. You don't know when, but apparently after the Daytona 500, so we do have that clue. Who won? So, okay, Cale Yarborough, Jeff Gordon, Mark Martin. Any other picks there? 3 straight Daytona 500, or sorry, 3 straight Southern 500 wins. Correction, nobody's won 3 Daytona 500s in a row. 3 straight Southern 500s. The answer is Jeff Gordon. Okay, well, there's your answer. So this was clearly made after the September 1998 Southern 500 because that was his third in a row, wasn't it? Because he had 96 through 98. He beat Hunt Strickland, and then he won the Southern, and then he won the Winston Million. And then in 1998, he won when Mark Martin blew an engine, and that cost Mark Martin the championship. This Mark Martin had much better times here in 1995. So, okay. He did it 4 in a row? He won it 95? I think did he win it in 95? Oh my goodness! See, I got to watch that one again. We'll pull that one up here pretty soon. 1995 for Gordon. Okay, so he won 4 in a row. Dang, that's impressive. I forgot about that. I remember 96, 97, and 98. My goodness. Okay, well there you go. We'll see. Learn something new every day. All right, here we go. What driver's life was featured in the 1973 movie The Last American Hero? What driver's life was featured in the 1973 film The Last American Hero? Jeff Bridges' film, if I remember correctly. Is that correct? I think. What driver was featured in the movie The Last American Hero? Junior Johnson. Junior Johnson. Okay, we got 2 for Junior. Any other picks? You got 3 for Junior Johnson. Okay. The answer is Junior Johnson. That is correct. There we go. 95 is a cluster of a race. I know they repainted it for the spring race because Marlin won that one, right? Like he had, there was a lot of wrecks in that one. I think that was one where Kyle Petty said they wanted to fill that track up and turn it into a minnow pond again or something like that. There we go. Let's kind of move this here. Kind of do this. I want to get the full frame in there. There we go. All righty. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Let's do that. Again, big thanks to the Racing Jungle for posting the 1995 Watkins Glen race. This is actually really good video quality for something from 1995. Of course, Watkins Glen's usually a pretty short race, so I guess back then you could tape it on like the higher setting. A lot of you younger folk there probably don't remember that. You used to tape things on like a VHS tape. You used to have like the SP, the LP, the EP. The EP would go up to 6 hours on one tape. But the problem is the quality would drop down. It would look like you're looking at it through Vaseline on your glasses. But if you had it on SP, if you had it on the lowest 2-hour setting, it would have a shorter period of time, but it would look a lot better. And then what would always be fun is you would actually tape the thing again, and then you tape over something else, and then it would chirp because like it would be taped at 6 hours and then 2 hours on top of it or something, and it would just mess all up. These are problems that you used to have when you were like much further back. Nowadays with streaming and everything, people don't even have physical media anymore. But not to get too far off base. Let's get back into the question here. What good luck charm did Dale Earnhardt glue to his dash for 1998's Daytona 500? What good luck charm did Dale Earnhardt glue to his dash for 1998's Daytona 500? What was his good luck charm to win the 1998 Daytona 500? A penny? There we go. A penny. Can somebody name? Okay, you guys are right. You guys are clearly right. Clearly right. It was the fan that provided the penny there. Does anybody? It's not asking this. This is me asking this. Does anybody remember from memory the name of the person that gave the penny to Dale Earnhardt? Because I can't. I'm trying to remember. I'm about to go to Google right now. Does somebody else remember that? Can somebody type that in really quick? I don't know. It's gonna be. It's a thing. I'm sure everybody's looking it up right now. Okay, yeah. Nobody can think of it right away. I'm gonna look it up. What was that? Dale Earnhardt's penny. It was a little girl, right? It was Lucky Penny. Yeah, there we go. There's the article from 2015. Can you credit the girl? That'd be good. Oh, and of course, there we go. There we go. Juanita Miller. Okay, it looks like. Is that one there? Let's see. Was that her? Or that? Where's the parent? Wessa. That's right. Wes was saying Wessa. Wessa, Booker, Bonita drove. Actually, this is a great article. I was supposed to add it there. Okay. So it's Wessa. Oh, goodness. Yeah. Oh, it's gonna make me cry. Okay, read it. Okay, yeah. Okay, that was a little girl Wessa there. Okay, there we go. This brush is weird. Martin's over here. But and okay, all right. Well, hang on. Let me turn this thing off. Let's get back to the trivia here. Well, come on, turn on. Okay, there we go. At least it remembers the space here. That's the only problem with the red one. It blanks out a lot quicker. All right, we did that already. We got the answer. A penny, we got that. Yep, that's already right. Okay. What 1997 rookie did Dale Earnhardt praise by saying, "This kid can race"? What rookie in 1997 did Dale Earnhardt praise by saying, "This kid can race"? Rookies in 1997. Rookies in 1997. And Earnhardt said, "This kid can race." Jeff Gordon. Okay, we have a vote for Gordon. We have a vote for Irwin. Okay. This kid can race. Dale Earnhardt said that about somebody in 1997 that was a rookie. Steve Park. Okay. All good guesses. All good guesses. Adam Petty. There we go. Any more guesses on here? I don't know this one either. This is interesting. My first guess would be like Mike Skinner because like that was his teammate in 97. It just says rookie. It doesn't say full-time rookie. It just says 1997 rookie. This kid can race. Of course, Mike Skinner was pretty old. I don't know if he'd say kid. So it would probably be somebody younger. All right, here we go. Let's get the answer. I know we're getting a lot of questions here. LePage, let's see. Robbie Gordon. Oh, didn't see that coming. Full twist. Robbie Gordon. I don't think that shows up on the camera at all. Is that when I reflect the light there? Yeah, it's not ideal. And no. Okay. Robbie Gordon said, "This kid can drive." Wow, there you go. Well, this kid can race. There we go. Goodness me. All right, next question. What driver says he'd be on the ski patrol to Colorado if he weren't racing cars? What driver says he'd be on the ski patrol in Colorado if he weren't driving cars? Yeah, Robbie was no rookie by that point. That's true. That's true. I mean, he won pieces of Cup Series seasons back to 91. What driver says he'd be on the ski patrol in Colorado if he weren't racing cars? Who would want to be on the ski patrol in Colorado if he weren't racing cars? Again, Cup Series drivers, most likely, through the 1998 season. We know that this was at least through September of 98. So who would have said it by that point? We got Dollenbach. We got Dave Marcus. Dollenbach's a good guess. He's from Colorado. Marcus, okay. Any other guesses? Oop, Chad Little. Chad Little. There you go. How about that? Jesse Little's dad. There we go. Chad Little. Yeah, Steve Grissom. There we go. I mean, that's one. Yeah, I would have never guessed Chad Little. I was going to guess that at all. Chad Little would have been rather than the ski patrol in Colorado. That's a very specific wish. But there you go. Who was the first three-time winner of the Winston? The first three-time winner of the Winston, the All-Star race, for those of you youngins out there. Who was the first three-time All-Star race winner? The first three-time winner of the All-Star race. I was going to say Jeff Bodine again with his Olympic connection that time. That's a good guess. Yeah, that would be two. That would be an interesting one. Earnhardt Sr. we have, Dale Earnhardt. Earnhardt. Answer is Dale Earnhardt. Correct. The field gets the win. Oh, we are at the 90-minute mark. Oh, hi, Mark. Okay, we're going to get the Pockers page. We have a couple of updates here. Do we have a call? There's a rule about points. IG story, Instagram story, stage wins, something new. Okay, no call on Pockers' page yet. So we are still waiting. Any moment now, we should be getting a call from Watkins Glen here about what's happening with that. We remark also at how awesome the MBNA car looks here that Wally Dollenbach's driving in relief of Randy LaJoy, Corey's father, had a brief, was going to do a full Cup Series season, ended up losing the ride to a number of different drivers, and then ultimately to Ward Burton, who would run the car basically until Dave Blaney took over. And Scott Wimmer, of course, as well. I I always like that paint scheme. That looks really clean. If they want to do a throwback, number 22, they'd never do it like, with Joey Logano because they're going to do something with Pennzoil or something, but that would look really neat. That black with the green, and it's on those old boxy Pontiacs. I just love that car. It looks amazing. We did a thing a while back. We were talking about the way the die casts were with Racing Champions, how they had more detail for the Chevys and the Fords, but then the Pontiacs had this really simple, flat black bottom, or the simple design there where it wasn't like 100% perfect there. And it wouldn't roll very well. But yeah, I have one of those for that Randy LaJoie scheme, and that was always a good looking one. All right, next question. Still in the drivers category here. Let's see. Whoop, hang on, turn back on. I don't know when I last changed the batteries on this thing, so we'll stay in touch here. What driver's 1996 bid for the full Winston Million slipped on a Darlington oil slick? What driver's 1996 bid for the full Winston Million slipped in a Darlington oil slick? What driver lost the Winston Million in 1996 when he slipped in the oil? We have Dale Jarrett. We have Dale Earnhardt. The answer is Dale Jarrett. That's correct. Number 88 car. He'd won the Daytona 500 that year. And the Circuit 500 was looking to clinch that, and ultimately didn't pull that one off there. Look at that, Dallenbach, the 2.7 second lead in that MBNA car. It never looked so good. That was always the greatest thing with Road Ringers. They had teams out there. You'd always wonder what they could do if they get the lead. And then you get a kid out there, like Wally Dallenbach in this one. You think about Ultra Motorsports, Robbie Gordon getting in that car, and the great run they're having. I mean, look at that. I mean, that is a Chase Elliott-like lead right there. Unfortunately, he's got Jeff Gordon in second, so that's not too good. But in the meantime, there you go. Next question: what NASCAR Winston Cup regular was the 1985 and 1986 SCCA Trans Am champion? What NASCAR Winston Cup regular in 1998 was the 1985 and 1986 SCCA Trans Am champion? You're probably seeing him on screen right now. If I were to guess, 1985 and 1986 SCCA Trans Am championship. Rusty Wallace. You got Dallenbach. And the answer, Wally Dallenbach. Well, hey, that's perfect timing. And again, we're seeing basically a career race for old Wally there in the NBA. Look at that thing. It just looks awesome. I don't know what it is, the Pontiacs. I think they just look so sleek, even when they were boxy. I'm not a big Ford or Chevrolet guy, but that's just me. All right. Well, okay. All right. Now we got that answer. Next question. How many times was Lee Petty the NASCAR Winston Cup champion? How many championships did Lee Petty earn in his career? How many championships? Oh, that's right. Jeb Burton had the throwback to the Caterpillar car. That one looked awesome. That was a good one, too. 3 championships, they say, for Lee Petty. Lee Petty's Winston Cup championships. 3. We have 3 votes for 3. We have 4 votes for 3. The answer is 3. Excellent. Field gets the point. All righty. What car number took David Pearson to the first of his Winston Cup wins in 1961? Not the first of his championships, the first of his wins in 1961. What car number did David Pearson drive to the first of his Winston Cup wins in 1961? The Silver Fox. Godspeed to him. He's no longer with us anymore, sadly, but with us in spirit. The first of his Winston Cup wins in 1961. Car number 3, car number 17, car number 3, car number 80. The 3, the first one to do it. The number 28. The answer, 3. Excellent. All the 3s get it. There we go. Or are those still for Lee Petty? There you go. Oh, I got yeah. All righty. Whose string of 336 consecutive starts ended at the 1998 Prime Star 500? I'm not even going to give a clue as to which race that is. A lot of you probably know already. You guys are hardcore, so I don't need to tell you. Whose string of 336 consecutive starts ended at the 1998 Prime Star 500? Do not go to Racing Reference. If you wait to answer, I'm going to assume you're looking. Go ahead and just type in, what's your guess? 336 consecutive starts into the first part of 1998. I'm giving you a clue there. The first part of 1998 in the Prime Star 500, the streak ended. Darrell Waltrip is one guess. Any of your drivers that had that? Chad Little, there's another guess. All right, good guesses. Prime Star 500 was the Spring Atlanta race. You are correct on that. But who was the driver that saw their consecutive start streak end there? We have guesses for Darrell Waltrip. We have guesses for Chad Little. We are going to have the answer here shortly. Everybody give up. Marlin. Okay, there's another one. 336 consecutive starts spring race in Atlanta in 1998. The answer is Sterling Marlin. Sterling Marlin. There you go. Waltrip doesn't make sense as DMQ at the past championship provisionals. There was a different time there. I'm trying to remember when Waltrip's streak ended. Clearly by 2000, he was having trouble qualifying for races in the Victory Tour. But obviously before then, there were struggles there as well. And, of course, his team collapsed in the first part of 1998. Although it was the first part of 98, he did run the spring race at Darlington and the Tim Flock throwback when Flock was ailing and had that deal. DNQ in early 97, so I gotta look that up. 97 is the season I'm rusty on. Because 96 and 97, I didn't really watch that many races back then. But 98, I was kind of getting back into it there. That's a whole other story. But there's that. Okay. What was Neil Bonnet's car number in 1988? Neil Bonnet's car number in 1988. Guesses, folks. Car number for Neil Bonnet in 1988. The winner. Show winners. 1988. Neil Bonnet's car number 75, says Bad Booking. Any other guesses? Neil Bonnet's car number in 1988. Do we have any calls here in the meantime? I do see a couple posts here. You have a guess for 75. Let's refresh this. Refresh the page as we look on the page here. All right. We do have a call in the meantime while we get this answer. We do have a call. 1 minute ago, Bob Parker's page. Tech is complete. No issues. Chase Elliott is the winner. Parker Clickerman's car had one lug nut missing and loose. That is a monetary fine. So Chase Elliott, officially your race winner, and then officially your last place finisher is going to be Reed Sorensen. You're going to get a Reed Sorensen article this week, as well as the A.J. Allmendinger feature later tonight from the Xfinity race yesterday. We'll do a couple more questions to wrap this up. But first, let's make sure we get the answer. Yes, it was car number 75 for Neil Bonnet. Number 75 for Neil Bonnet. All righty. So Chase Elliott, your winner, and Reed Sorensen, your last place finisher for Spire Motorsports. So we'll cover that next. All righty. We'll do a couple more driver questions here. What NASCAR Winston Cup champ won the Rolex 24 Hours at Daytona in 1987? What NASCAR Winston Cup champion won the Rolex 24 Hours at Daytona in 1987? Top of dining problems. Boom. 1987. Now, you're correct there with the 23 Dragon. He did drive the number 75 car earlier in his career as well. He had, I believe he drove the Warner Hogden car there for a while as well. And he reunited with Ray Hill. He's actually the same number 75 team you're seeing right here in the factory stores car, running over every single bump as he goes off course in the number 75 car. I'm going to do it this way in the future. Just show the full screen. There's no reason not to, especially with the bars on the side there. That could stay in the shot there. I don't need all of my head in the shot there. Oh, yes. Who won the Winston Cup champion? Won the Rolex 24 Hours at Daytona in 1987. Any more picks here? We have Benny Parsons. We have Allison. I assume you mean Bobby Allison. Terry Labonte. Dale Earnhardt. Here we go. 1987. Rolex 24 Hours at Daytona. The answer is Bill Elliott. Bill Elliott. How about that? Chase Elliott winning at Watkins Glen today. Bill Elliott, as many know, won his first Cup Series race at Riverside in 1983. He also was part of a winning team at the 24 Hours at Daytona in 1987. Actually, before he won his Winston Cup championship in 1988, and immediately before winning the Daytona 500 a second time in 1987. Bill Elliott is your answer. All right. What 52-year-old was the oldest driver ever to win a NASCAR Winston Cup race in 1992? What 52-year-old was the oldest ever to win a NASCAR Winston Cup race in 1992? Harry Gant. Anybody want to make picks as to which race it was? What track or what race did he win at? I've seen Dale Earnhardt blow up here at the end of this Watkins Glen race here. What race did Harry Gant? I mean, it is Harry Gant. I mean, that's definitely the answer. But what race did he win at? Martinsville, Michigan. See, this is split authority here. Southern 500? It was Michigan, at least as far as I could tell. I admit, I'm going to look at the phone here to make sure because I don't want to be trust the Google, don't trust your noodle here. I'm going to make sure to get that right. I'm pretty sure it's Michigan because he won that one on fuel mileage, and that was at a time where very close to the end of his career. He didn't win his last 2 years driving a Chevrolet. He drove in an Oldsmobile, 18 career victories, 2 wins. He won Dover that year as well. Yeah, he won Dover, and then he won at Michigan. So Michigan's round out his career there. That was not the same year that he won every race in September. That was in 1991, and that streak ended at North Wilkesboro. That's the Ultimate 23 Dragon bringing up Wilkesboro there. It's a good guess because that was a very significant race for him. That was Dale Earnhardt beat him. That streak. Ooh. Ooh, excuse me there. Alrighty. So as the caution falls for apparently Dale Earnhardt's smoking machine there at Watkins Glen in 1995, I will do a couple more questions here and round that out. What driver won the 1997 Busch Clash? The 97 Busch Clash. Who was the driver that won that race? 1997 Busch Clash. Picks for that one. Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon. 3 for Jeff Gordon. Was it Jeff Gordon? The answer, yes, Jeff Gordon with the awesome paint scheme. I like is that the Chrome Illusion car, the gold and black one? That one's not bad. That one's not bad. I'm not a big fan of special paint schemes. Whenever I shot for diecast back in the day, I always wanted like the regular paint scheme, which is a nightmare nowadays because, of course, everybody runs multiple schemes, and you guys got to look for which one runs the most races, I guess. But even at that point, it just gets to be just kind of ridiculous. That's when I had the 2 10-lap segment. There you go. Boom. Alrighty. Where did Curtis Turner, we're going to jump into a different era here, win his first race once his racing ban was rescinded? Now there's a tricky one. Where did Curtis Turner win his first race once his racing ban was rescinded? Now, if I remember correctly, he was banned from racing because he was trying to unionize. And it had something to do with building Charlotte, and there was a whole deal with that. What was the first race, though, that he won after that ban was rescinded? We have a guess for Atlanta. Maserati says 1965 Rockingham. Going for max points here, Maserati. There we go. Atlanta, we have vote for Rockingham. Any other guesses? He said 1965. It doesn't give the year, but you're probably correct about that. Once his racing ban was rescinded. The answer, Rockingham, and I believe you are correct, Maserati. I believe it was 1965, so good on you there. There we go. We'll go ahead and look that up on the old machine there, too. I'm pretty sure you're right, because they did a segment on that. I think it was a Tom Higgins interview during one of those NASCAR 50th anniversary documentaries, and it talks about Curtis Turner coming back there and a really hot and slick track that he won the race on there. And yeah, you do see a whole lot of wins there up through 1959 and then off the circuit for a while. And then, yes, in 1965 at Rockingham, the 54th race of the season there, that being that deal. Let's cue it back here again. Let's do one more question and we'll wrap it up here for this week. And we'll get started on the articles there for later tonight. For both, again, Reed Sorensen and AJ Allmendinger. So, again, last question for this week, and we'll be back again next week. Michigan, what famous driver's triple flip was the first wreck at the first NASCAR event? Oh, yeah, now we got some hard questions. What famous driver's triple flip was the first wreck at the first NASCAR event? Wow, there's a lot to unpack here. The first NASCAR event and the first wreck, and a famous driver wrecked and flipped his car 3 times. Which driver was that? Man, oh man. Lee Petty, Fonny Flock. Any other guesses? Lee Petty, you got Lee Petty again. Famous driver flipped his car 3 times in the first ever NASCAR race. Lee Petty, you're persuading me here that it may be Lee Petty. Junior Johnson, funny plug. Okay, we still got those. All right, we're going to wait a little longer to make sure we get some more picks as we see Dale Jarrett run off course there in the 28 car because it's Dale Jarrett at a road course. First wreck at the first NASCAR event. Everybody give up? We're going to have the answer here. Last question of the day. Let's wrap this one up here with this answer. Lee Petty. The Lee Petty picks have it there. Beast of Metal Bad Bookie and Maserati 9. You have the picks there. Lee Petty and a triple flip in the first NASCAR race, which I would assume would be that Charlotte dirt track race that saw Glen black flag and fish in the back of the field there. So, again, thank you all for tuning in for the disqualification show. No disqualification this week. Chase Elliott, your winner, and Reed Sorensen, your last place finisher. Stay tuned next week for our show at Michigan. We'll be back at the other location and cover the action there from Michigan. And again, close ahead to our next couple of races that we're going to be covering at the end of the month. Most Sport in Darlington. In the meantime, check out the website, lastcar.info, the Twitter at LastCarOnBrock, and the Patreon at patreon.com/LastCarOnBrock. As always, thank you for your support, and we will talk to you again next week. And have yourself a very safe week here, and getting ready for racing again next week in the Irish Hills.